Why, hi there, it's me, it's Uncle Ron, and it's time once again for the 147th edition of the Digital Dice Podcast. I am joined today from the infirmary ward in Massachusetts by my buddy Dave. How are you, Dave?
I'm actually in Studio B, so let's not fool everybody.
The infirmary ward of the Dave Gardner Concussion Unit.
This has been weird, let me tell you.
Oh, absolutely.
It really is. It's been... a lot of good and bad moments, ups and downs. You know what I mean? Nothing terrible, but it's just weird. It's just like I find I'm really slow going in the morning. Like I wake up and instead of like bam hitting the ground running, I need a good 20 minutes to a half hour to kind of get the motor running, so to speak. You know. For
those who may have missed it in our last show, why don't you let people know what actually happened to you?
Yeah, I refereed. I was filled in as a referee. Imagine that. I was supposed to scorekeep, and I filled in as a referee, and I hit a rut. The play come out of the zone. I turned to while skating to my right, I turned to my left to follow the puck, and my skate went right into a rut. My right skate, and my right skate came to a complete stop. So, kind of like someone took the feet right out from under me, and I went flying in the air, and I come down and my head snapped against the ice. And it's probably the worst hockey accident I've ever had. And
wow.
Luckily 55 years old, that's the worst I've ever had. But it was just weird. I just was following the play. I must have been going pretty quick to catch up to the puck, and when I turned, instead of sliding to a stop, my ice blade went into a rut, and that just basically means it's kind of like picture sliding across a patch of ice and then like hitting a curb. Your feet stop, but your whole upper body keeps on going, and you got no choice. You end up just falling down, and I fell.
Momentum is going to take your weight regardless.
Yep. And it's almost like I fell backwards, what it was. But I was off to the side.
Do that. I mean, we talked about this last week, but the last time I fell and hit my head, thankfully it was backwards.
Yeah.
I think because for the rest of my body, it was better protection. But you still did that. And that doesn't get easier as you get older to take any sort of fall.
Yeah, it was just weird. And it just makes me think that if I didn't have a helmet on, I probably would have died. That's how big of a hit it was. And it's just the idea that, I think back to the NHL when the linesmen, the referees, and even the players didn't have helmets. I'm like, if any of them ever hit the rut that I hit and they hit their head like that, they'd be done.
Now, this is also a newer rink for you, right? Yeah,
this is a newer rink. It's not an older rink, so it just must have been the summer ice or whatever. I just hit it just right, and so it's I finished the game. I never blacked out or anything like that, but I still like where the impact hit. It still hurts. So the doctor said I'm probably still got a bruise there, and it hurts once in a while.
Go. So even though this has been a warm summer, we still do get summer most years. How do places deal with that and try to keep something as cold as frozen cement?
Some of the rinks have a hard time. The ice is really soft, and sometimes it's just full of condensation, because it's just so hot it can't keep up, and the humidity here is bad. This rink wasn't bad that night. But the ice was a little soft, and then I hit a rut later on in the night, and I landed on my shoulder, not my head, which is probably good. But yeah, it's just been weird. I just been really kind of slow with things. Sometimes I hit a wall, and I just got to stop. And today, though, today's been, knock on wood, been a decent day that I got up and I did my normal Wednesday. And here it is 1:39 in the afternoon.
That's right.
And I'm still kind of going along here. The other day at noontime I had to stop and take a couple hours off. But it's just weird. If anybody's ever had a concussion, I've had a few people reach out to me and tell me, their stories, some horror stories and some regular stories. But I kind of what I'm gathering is I don't have 95% of the concussion symptoms that other people have. So the doctor said that's really good. But he says, this could linger on for a few weeks and just not feel, up normal yet. So I still haven't. I don't feel like I have the brain capacity to play anything yet and like concentrate on anything. So I'm still doing a lot of do what I got to do for work, get that done, and then I just kind of just chill out and watch some TV. My new thing on YouTube is, as you saw the crazy video that we talked about, the Russian folk band that we talked about. I put the video up on the Facebook page. That was kind of funny.
Russian Eskimo girls singing folk music.
Weird stuff. Yeah. It was with, I think it was called Otikan was the name of the band. Otikan. Anyway,
before I forget and before Dave yells at me for it, if you'd like to get a hold of us, well, first of all, we have a Facebook group. That's facebook.com/digitaldice. You can get a hold of us there. We have a website, www.digitaldice.com. Our email is digital2, and that's the word TO, dice, at yahoo.com. We've had some great conversations there. And you can send us a text or leave a voicemail that we may or may not use on the show at 978-751-DICE. That's 978-751-DICE.
Yeah, I've been trying to follow up a lot. I'm a little behind on the text and a little behind on the email. Considering that I'm kind of limiting what I'm doing right now. It's just at some point I just don't feel like looking at in fact, the doctor said stop looking at the computer as much as you can. So it comes a point where I do what I have to do, and I try to get back to some people as quick as I can. But
I can imagine though, especially because light and all these screens have backlights and stuff and.
So if we don't get back to you, or if I don't get back to you on the text line, it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just I'm just backlogged on some of that stuff there. But anyway.
And so instead of quizzing Dave on what he's not played because of all this, we decided that this week we're gonna take your questions. And so he doesn't know what I'm going to ask.
Okay.
And so
do I need to go into the room off the silence room off to the side? What show was that they did that? We're going to put the wife in the.
It was Tattletales.
Was that what it was called?
The banana section, yeah. It was Bert Convy, and they had divided the audience into three, and so it was husbands and wives or fake couples if someone wasn't of heterosexual persuasion. And so they would ask, so Betty White, tell me, what does Alan Ludden put on his cornflakes? And then Betty would give a comical answer, and they would bring Alan back on, and Alan said, I put Betty in my cornflakes. Waka, waka, waka.
Yeah, but wouldn't they go off? Oh, it was a soundproof room, and they had headphones on, and so they couldn't hear any of the answers, yeah.
And they had, for the time, it was amazing because they all had little color monitors there, so when they brought in the spouse, you could see them and wearing those big, gaudy 70s headphones that we thought would never come back.
Yeah.
And now you pay, what, $200-300 for the big, gaudy Beats headphones.
Right,
it had the same technology that we would wear in our little tiny Walkman headphones about 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology, before I go on to the first question, I got an Echo Show. Now, I've had Madam Speaker. I've had the Dot for 3-4. Did I have that when we first got together?
I think so, yeah.
And I just use it a ton because you just ask it anything and it will get to the answer. Play your music. And so I was looking to upgrade it. There's a thing called a tidbit. You and I have talked about this before, and it's a thing that goes in your gaming room, or I hate the word man cave. I really just despise that word. But someplace that's yours, and you can set it up with apps on your phone to display scores, news tickers.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Transit things, the time and whatever.
Stocks or whatever, yeah.
Stocks or I mean, there must be 100 different things you can display on it. And I thought about getting it. I just had a wedding anniversary, and I looked at the price and went, I don't think I can justify that.
Right.
First of all. And the second thing was, it's all done in LED lights, so it looks like a light bright. It looks very retro.
It is,
It looks like something that you and I would have died for in about 1979.
Right.
Wow. So logos and scores and out. And the other thing I couldn't tell from watching some reviews is whether you could shut it off.
It looks like it's pretty good from across the room, but the closer you get to it, because it's so pixelated.
It
doesn't look good that close, yeah.
Really didn't need to roll over at 3 in the morning and had the Blue Jay score flashed at me. And if you're not, so I started looking at other things, and so I got looking at the Echo Show. Now it's an Echo. If you're familiar with that Amazon technology with Madam Speaker, because I don't want to say her name, she'll talk to me. It has that technology, but it has a screen. So theoretically, if I wasn't right by my laptop, you and I could do the video. I'm not sure you could do the StreamYard that way, but we could do the Facebook chats that way and all that. It's got a 13 megapixel camera and an 8-inch screen. They have a 5-inch, an 8-inch, and a 15-inch screen. And so it's designed for the kitchen. So if you ask for a recipe for whatever it is, it would show you how to make it while you were making it. But it has 2 stereo speakers, and the sound is wonderful.
Oh, nice.
And there's a light sensor and a motion sensor. So if I'm not in here, it'll dim. And if I got the light off at night, which is what I often do, then it will dim. It shows you stuff constantly, so I could ask her for the scores, and it'll flash me the scores.
Oh, fantastic.
And the weather and all that. And so I found that solution for a bit cheaper. And the backlight shuts off when there's no lights in the room, so you can sleep with it as an alarm clock, and it just tells you the time and the temp all night long. And so
that's cool.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
That's great. No, that's good. That's cool.
So today on the show,
before we do that, I do got one little announcement here.
Sure. Yep.
I first of all, I want to thank everybody that was telling me about the brand new hockey game coming out from Stone Mountain Press.
Is there a brand new hockey game coming out?
People were so excited to tell me, because not only is there a new hockey game coming out, which I've been aware about. Is that right? I don't know. Anyway,
you've been aware of.
Aware of. Thank you. Werewolf. Well, I've been a werewolf of. But I had no idea that they were making a computer version of this game, and Richard Hanna was involved. Are you kidding me? It was like Christmas morning here in August. And so, needless to say, last night when I got home from work, I'm just laying in bed chilling out. I look, it's like I get all these notifications and texts and emails.
I woke up and you had 4 or 5 on Facebook. And that was just the ones I...
so everyone's like, Dave, you ain't going to believe this. It's Christmas morning. It's like Richard Hanna's working on a PC hockey game. So, so needless to say, I reached out to Gary at Stone Mountain Press, and he got right back to me, and we're going to try to set him up to come on the show.
We're looking forward to that.
And talk about the game. Now, I think the pre-orders are starting now for the cards
for the
print game, and then I think they also offer a PDF version as well. They're just kind of getting this rolling out. He's done a couple of videos on YouTube, and I was watching how it played out.
I would imagine Gary Brown, by the way, has produced the Legends of Boxing game, and the PC version of that I've shown off a few times. That's the Tommy the Tomato Can Saga, which I probably should update at some point. And the computer game is sold through ASG Games.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so we're talking to him about trying to get him on the show so we can talk about the printed game and the computer game and how it's all gonna pan out here. So, stay tuned for that. That could happen very soon.
We're looking forward to that.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And it was so funny this morning because I'd seen last night that I knew that last night, and to wake up this morning and see Dave.
Yeah, I was like, what happened? What happened? All these people, they're tagging me. I'm like, what's going on? Hopefully it's some good news. And it was.
It is.
So that was great. Thank you so much to everybody for that. And we did reach out to Gary, and he's going to come on and talk to us. So.
All right. So today, instead of going through what we're playing and have a specific topic, I asked you guys on Facebook and our Patreon Discord if you got any questions that you wanted to ask us. And so so Dave does not know what's coming for questions. And there are no pineapple pizza questions. And so so I'm going to start with the Discord.
Okay.
Questions. And this is... Oh, someone moved it. All right, hold on here. Here's 4 questions. And the first one is from Bernie.
Okay.
When playing baseball, basketball, football, hockey, or golf, or any sport, I suppose, do you prefer season replays or short projects like series or single games?
Oh boy. I really think it's the type of mood I'm in. Generally, I will lean towards either a one-off project or something shorter, like a playoff series or a Stanley Cup or a Super Bowl or a quick round of golf between a couple of players like that. Generally, I do that, but occasionally I get the fever to start a full season project. Now, needless to say, I've only finished a couple of those, and they've been with quick play games.
Right.
But I do have a couple of seasons started, mostly on the computer. I do have a Hockey Bones season started on the tabletop, where I'm going the whole way with one particular team. So I guess it depends on the mood, but I think lately I tend to lean towards either a one-off or a quick head-to-head or like I say, a playoff series or a championship game or something like that, because I like everybody else, I have so many projects and so many irons in the fire that I really don't want to start another long one that I may or may not finish. So I try to go with the shorter ones. I think one that's coming up for me is once the Stratomatic releases the 72 Summit series. I bought the cards and dice for that, and I'll get the PC version as well. I do plan on your suggestion is to run the Russian team against all the teams in the NHL in 72. I think that would be fun to have them run the gauntlet and see how they did, and see how they do against the Seals, and then against the Flyers, and against some of the teams that were really good, the Canadians and the Blackhawks or whatever. So
Speaking of Stratomatic Hockey, they are the person that wrote the utility is updating a utility for the first time in years. That's the good news. Some changes to that, but the bad news is that it's not cross-compatible with the PC game.
Oh, okay.
I did see that yesterday.
Okay. So we're getting there. So for me, the season replays are tough. The longer ones are tough because you know that's going to tie up a lot of your table time, and I know it's an enjoyable table time, but so I tend to lead towards the shorter ones so I can play more.
I will do one-offs using Memorial games. I know we're going to have to do one soon for poor Len Dawson, but I tend to be a season project type person. I think that holds my interest more than just a one-off, because you get something that you might start a best of 7, and the first 2 games, let's say we're doing basketball, they're blowouts for one team. I think for me that just kind of leaves it less likely that you're going to finish the project if you're going to do that. So season projects, and for me, watching the stories build and progress tend to be more for that, and certainly that's what I certainly do online and offline. It just takes my time to do.
Right.
So I do do both, but season projects would are my preference.
Okay.
For them. All right. So Glenn will say, are there, Bernie's other question, are there certain games you guys prefer playing on the PC versus cards and dice? If so, why?
Wow. I think it really kind of depends on the game. It really does. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what games I prefer. Good example is probably Stratomatic football. I really don't want to play that cards and dice.
Yeah.
If I had somebody local that would play with me, maybe, but to try to play that solo, the only way I would really play that is on the computer. Some reason I like playing APA cards and dice, although if there was an APA PC game, I'd be willing to try that. But I like the Strat on the computer baseball compared to the Strat cards and dice. Like I said, the PC is nice because it kind of does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, allows you to simulate games. So again, maybe it comes down to the project itself. If I'm doing a one-off, I can do, a cards and dice game. It's not a big deal. If I'm doing a full season and stuff, like even the Hockey Bone season I'm doing when I'm playing the entire Bruin season, there's a lot of stat keeping and housekeeping that goes into that beyond the games that you're playing, whereas the computer handles all that for you.
And the bookkeeping part of it.
Yeah.
I find myself going into more of an open engine thing, since all of my gaming, whether it's cards and dice or something like Action PC, is a computer assist at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I play more and more games, I'm more and more inclined to the open engine. Having said that, I still think that Action PC Baseball is an incredible game, and we'll continue to stream that in the future. I think it does enough there to this tells the story and lets you tell the story how you want it.
All right. I guess another answer for me would be, ideally, I like a hybrid version on the computer where, as I feel like I'm playing cards and dice, I can maybe even roll my own dice or input my own results on there as well. So there's a handful of games that do that in different sports as well, where you can input your results on there. So again, in the best of both worlds, if you could do something on the computer where the computer sets it up, but you feel like you're rolling dice or flipping cards,
yes,
or putting in your results on the table into it, that's the best of both worlds right there.
Digital Diamond has done a great job of that, opening it up with their board game companion this year,
right?
Version 10, which gives you pretty much for the price of admission, the price of the package, any season from 1928 forward.
Yeah.
With as-played lineups, you supply the game, it supplies the way to keep the books.
And also, I just want to add, Bernie, the option of playing cards and dice or computer is very important to me as well.
Yes.
Because, again, there's times that I want to put up my feet, like right about now, where I don't have a huge attention span, and I could play something on the computer and not have to worry about figuring out the results and just kind of enjoying the game. And there's other times that I want to be challenged. I want to solve the puzzle. I want to roll the dice and flip the card and look at the charts and figure out myself what happened on the play, because that's part of the fun of that as well. So having the option of either one is key as well.
Glenn asks, not a gaming question, but sports question. And he says football and baseball, and I wouldn't expect you to know the answer for this for baseball, but hockey for you. Who is one player from, let's say, football and hockey you feel should be or you'd like to see get in the Hall of Fame?
Somebody that's not in?
Somebody that's not that should be.
Oh, boy. Yeah, there's probably so many that should be in the Hall of Fame. But, here's the other thing. There's people in the Hall of Fame that are in there that are in there for one game or one season. And when you really look at their stats, and I won't mention names, but I think there's a couple of people in the Football Hall of Fame that if you compare them to some modern quarterbacks, you got some guy who's a 8-8 quarterback consistently that has better numbers than some of these guys are in the Hall of Fame. So I think a lot of the Hall of Fame, how do I say this in a nice way?
Oh, you can say it nicer than what Deion Sanders said the other day.
Yeah, I think the Hall of Fame is kind of more of a popularity contest than it is actually who should be in there at times. Not all the time, but at times. There's certain people we all can agree should be in there. But there's certain people that you're like, yeah, they had a good career, but if this is where we're going to drop the bar for the Hall of Fame, then there's probably several hundred other people that fall under that same umbrella.
I think that it's so hard, especially in football, to compare eras.
That's true, too, yeah.
You go back to the 70s where a 50% quarterback completion percentage was above average.
Yes.
And considered very good. I mean, if you look at Joe Namath's numbers now in retrospect, what the heck is he doing in the Hall of Fame? But if you look at what Joe Namath did for football and for the AFL, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to say there, and I'll give the football and baseball answer. For football, Ken Anderson for the Cincinnati Bengals, because he was the first real West Coast offense quarterback. Bill Walsh was Paul Brown's offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. He perfected it with Joe Montana and everything that Montana did. But Ken Anderson got the Bengals to a Super Bowl, got into the playoffs several times. They were like Dan Fouts and the San Diego Chargers. They could just never defense and couldn't win the big one. But I think Anderson should be there. In baseball, I'll go with two. I'll go with Dick Allen, who should be in the Hall of Fame. He had great careers for Philadelphia and the Chicago White Sox, but he rubbed people the wrong way. He was a bit of a John McEnroe type figure.
I think that's where the popularity contest comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And Dwight Evans, who was one of the best defensive right fielders, and if people knew that you needed 400 home runs to get in the Hall of Fame, then he probably would have done that.
Well, see, and the whole Dwight Evans thing, that brings me to a point I was going to bring up, is that we tend to be homers. And so,
we do.
So if you would ask me, that question,
well, I brought up Richie Allen, so
yeah,
it would be
I would probably lean towards a lot of the players who played in the Boston area, no matter what the sport, because that's what I grew up watching. Those are my favorite players, like Rick Middleton after Bobby Orr, and Bobby Orr is number one for me, and he's in Hall of Fame. Ray Bork and Rick Middleton are 1A for me, 1A and 1AA for me. Okay, so those are my three favorite hockey players of all time. I don't know if Rick Middleton's numbers warrant putting him in the Hall of Fame, because, again, if you're going to drop it to that level, and don't get me wrong, he's at a high level, but, I mean, you want to really put the elite of the elite in there, and as much as I love Middleton, if he got into the Hall of Fame, because I'm a Bruins fan, I would love it. But then you'd have all these, Montreal fans and, Minnesota fans that might say, well, what's wrong with this guy? He had the same numbers as Middleton. Well, it's a guy that nobody knows because he played Minnesota, or at least I don't know.
Right.
So I think we all tend to lean towards our home team and our favorite players and think that they're much better than they really are, because if you take that person that's your favorite guy, and everybody across the country has their favorite guy and their favorite team that probably has similar numbers that you would probably say no way should be in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. Let's see. Jamie asks, is there a sports gaming moment, an individual game or season that you enjoyed the most?
Jamie, let me see. I'm assuming in our gaming is what he's talking about, right?
We're talking. That's a gaming question.
Oh boy, I've had so many. In PC Replay Baseball, the 2 Fred Lynn walk-offs.
Those were amazing,
and I think I streamed them both. And it was just amazing when I rolled the dice, and I rolled 6, 6, 6, and that's a home run all day long, and that won the game in the bottom of the ninth. That was super cool. The 72 Summit Series between Canada and Russia in the homemade shootout hockey cards. They're not official cards, but somebody produced them, right. and I have a copy of them. And I couldn't stream that. I wasn't allowed to stream that, but I played that off to the side. That was very, very memorable, and I always talk about that. There's probably a handful of others off the top of my head I can't really think about, but those are the 2 that come to mind, was the Summit Series and shootout. The Fred Lynn in PC Replay Baseball. And we've had some exciting times in Spiders Baseball on Strat PC Baseball, too, that I've had there. That's been fun. Some of my Apple hockey streams have been really fun as well. So, yeah, those are the ones that kind of jump out at me, that, like, when people say, well, why do you play these games? I give them those examples about, rolling the dice in the bottom of the ninth and getting 6, 6, 6 on the 3, 6-sided die and winning the game on that roll was super fun. And I've had some frustrating moments too.
That's another question that we'll get to later. All
right, but yeah, as far as my most memorable ones, for me, I think those would be the ones there. I'm trying to think if there's anything in football. I don't think I had anything basketball related, right? Oh, in basketball, I would say probably the Celtics having a hard time with Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean that's become a running joke.
Yeah, it has been, but it's real and it follows me around. It's like a shadow that follows me around. And whenever I play those Celtics against the Hawks, no matter what game it is, the Hawks give the Celtics fits.
Yeah, it's rubbed off, Gardner. It's rubbed off.
It follows me around like a bad penny. You know what I mean?
That's right. I had a football game. I did a couple years ago to the 2007 Patriots Project, which I did 6 or 7 games over the course of the summer against other great teams. They played the 85 Bears, the greatest show on turf. They played a 49er team and whatever. And I think it was either San Francisco or the St. Louis Rams, where they were going to lose. The Patriots were going to lose. And Ellis Hobbs ran back a kickoff.
It was the Rams.
So it was the 99 Rams. So Hobbs returned the kickoff for a touchdown.
With like no time left or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolute last play of the game. That sort of thing. I get more enjoyment just, again, sound like a broken record, the story building, watching, the petty things. Charles Barkley having a bad game against the 85-86 Celtics. Oh, too bad. So sad. Finishing that first project for the channel, which was the 82 season, and having the Expos win the World Series. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. I mean, yeah. We've done some other ones since then, but having Montreal, who had never won a postseason series, well, they won one. They beat the Phillies in the NLDS in 81. But to have them come through in 82 and just stomp on the Dodgers to get to that World Series, and then that World Series went 6 against Baltimore. To have them win, knowing what that would have meant up there, was pretty darn special.
Right.
So So I guess that would be that, or any time that you have a game result that you know is pretty close to what happened in real life.
Yeah. When you play a game and you look at the score and you're like, holy cow, that was either right on or just off by a hair. Those are fun too. When you get it that close, and you don't want that all the time. That's for sure.
And that's what makes it special. Is you don't want it to happen.
When you get
all the time.
that once in a while, like, holy cow, look at this right here. I hit this one on, and this was off by just a little bit. So yeah.
Mario Mendoza walking off one against the '78 Dodgers. That was pretty fun. What was some of the other ones? Maybe the most amazing moment for me was in the playoffs in '78. It was the Texas Rangers who won the AL West for me, and they faced the Yankees, and I didn't think Texas stood a chance. And so the way they did it then, the first two games were in one city, and then in the best of five, the other city would host the last three if needed. And for whatever reason, because they went in a rotation, the East had the last three games. And so games 3 and 4, and surprisingly 5, were at Yankee Stadium. And so here's the Rangers, which were, I think they finished 5 games out behind Kansas City in real life, and they're facing Ron Guidry in Game 5 at Yankee Stadium. This is an Action PC. And Bobby Bonds smashed a 3-run homer to knock Guidry out in the third. That game was over. And to have, that was like, whoa. So, yeah, those sort of things. To have, I guess, the things that kind of catch you by surprise.
Yeah.
The Lynn thing, just strikes with me, watching you. Or the night that the lights went out playing hockey.
Action PC hockey, yeah, that was another
hockey.
Good one, yep.
This question is primarily for me, but I'll let you take an answer at it. This is from Turbo Charge. Become the guru of full season, full league replay projects in baseball and football, or you're more of a broadcaster covering the replay rather than the whole thing. Do I prefer this kind of replay project or the kind of project where you take one team and manage it? I think for me, if you get just kind of like the short season project, if you get something where someone's with the 86 Red Sox, you were trying to do that Clemens replay, and the team became an absolute dud.
Yep.
There isn't a heck of a lot of fun trying to stream that because, like, oh God, here we go again. It can be fun for a while, and you can do whatever you want with that. But I think because I didn't grow up with a local team on the Superstation, so there wasn't 100 Red Sox games for a year for me to watch at 15 years old. There was 160,000 Braves games. But, so it's not like if you wanted to do that with the Bruins where you had the option to see at least half the games or whatever. So as a viewer growing up, you were parachuted into, it's the 40, the doubleheader game is the 49ers.
Right.
And next week you're being taken to Dallas. And then the next week
we always got the Giants here because we were close to New York,
As you should. But yeah, so the local team is the Patriots or the Giants or whatever. And so I think not only does that, I think that makes it more of a challenge because you're dealt with what the computer is dealing you as far as bullpen usage is concerned in baseball or football usage is that you kind of, if someone's injured, I'm not going to go on injured in football. And so I think it makes more of a challenge. And then again, we can just kind of even change, like if I'm supposed to do, let's say the Cowboys and the 49ers and have the Cowboys get hurt, well, then we can switch to Washington, Chicago.
Yeah, I can see both of that because I'm playing the Cincinnati Reds in 75 right now, and I'm enjoying it because I'm starting to learn the team a little bit. And the same with the 92-93 Bruins. Obviously, I know the team, but right. So I play and I try to get the lineup. But if somebody has a good game or a bad game, they might go up or down. So I try to start with the lineups that were in that day, but then I move around. Even with the Reds, it's like I find myself that I was trying to play as played, and then it's like, something. If I'm going to manage it, I'm going to manage it. And if I want to move, so I used to be a stickler about no, this is how it's going to be. But now I'm like, I'm actually enjoying manipulating the lineup and who's starting on defense or whatever in whatever thing I'm doing. But as you said, there's also some fun in if you're playing and you decide, okay, I could play my Cincinnati Reds here today, but the matchup of the day really is Dodgers Giants, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I like to do both. Sometimes it's fun to take one team and you learn the team and you get used to the team and you manage the team and you sink or swim with the team. That's what's kind of fun. But it's also doing the NFL Red Zone is whipping around and finding a game like you do on your channel. You kind of pick the best game to play and then you play it out. And then the next week it might be two different teams in the whole bit. And what I did one time with, I don't know if it was second season or if it was Solitaire Pro Football, but I was playing like one game a week and then simming the rest. And I played like early in the season, I did Houston, Seattle. And neither team was even 500 at the end of the season. But it's one of these things where I snuck them in early so I could at least show them off once. And then like I never went back to either one of those teams. But it was... I kind of pictured this as one of those games where it's like, and you're either going to see Pittsburgh, Dallas, or Houston, Seattle. Oh, good, we're in the Houston area, so we get to see Houston, Seattle, which no one cares about. But, someone had to watch that game. And so I played that game thinking that like 20 people were watching in my theoretical TV, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that made it fun. That made it fun playing two really bad teams. I like my bad teams, but it was early in the season, and I got it out of the way, and it's just like, why did I pick that game? It's like, because I'm not going back to either one of these teams.
I think the one thing also, if you do a super single team replay, is you get to know that team so well that if you're playing against the computer, as good as the AI is in a lot of these games, you're going to outsmart it. You know what they can do. You know what they can't do. And yes, our random number generators and dice will tamper that somewhat. I just really enjoy just kind of parachuting in for, picking the best and kind of going there and everything else
it's different. It's different types of enjoyment. It's lobster steak. It really is.
It really is. Okay, moving to Facebook, and some of these questions are the same. So if I don't read your question, it's because someone else already asked it. Michael asks, what is your favorite season to replay? Can be any sport. I think I know what that is for you.
Yeah, and anything Bobby Orr, but I do like the 70-71 hockey season in the NHL, and probably because that's the one the Bruins didn't win, and it was still their best offensive season, and probably because that one went 7 games between Chicago and Montreal. And that was just a fantastic series. The Bruins didn't win, and so I can replay that, and I'm not disappointed if Boston doesn't win it. Now, every time I've played that in some kind of simulation, Boston wipes the floor with everybody and goes all the way.
They're just so good. They are just so good.
And, what games can't factor in is just how good Dryden got so fast, But yeah, so for me, I do like the 70-71 season. I also like 74-75 because it brings in the scouts, and a team that only lasted a couple seasons.
Yeah.
So that's another one there for me. For baseball, 1980. And baseball and football, 1980 is my sweet spot. In fact, I was looking at some of the albums that come out in 1980. Around that area between like the Van Halen's albums that come out in Black Sabbath and Pat Benatar, and just you look at 1980. And I was just turned to a teenager at that point, and that was just so good of a year. It really was. And so is that the Phillies Royals in the that was there. That was another one there. There was some good football there, even though the Patriots weren't that good. I know all the guys because you were old enough at that age to watch football and buy the cards, all the sports, buy the cards, and watch the games. But you weren't old enough to have a car, and once you got a car, you're not watching TV anymore.
Our girlfriend, I think.
So that 12 to 16 range was pretty big with me. So 1980 was like right in the middle of that.
I think Kenny Dryden is right. Whether he's the one that originated the quote for what era does sports mean the most to you, and he said when you're 14.
Yep. For me, it was 13. 1980 was a big one for me. So I loved the baseball in that, and I loved the football. For basketball would probably be the Celtics, and what was it, 80? Is it 85, 86, or 84, 85? Was one 85, of those.
86 is the year they went 15-1 at home.
Yeah, so the Celtics, that would be my favorite one for basketball. Football, like I say, I do like the 70s and 80s for football. I grew up watching that, but also, like I say, anything in the Brady era obviously is going to be fun for me to play as a New England fan. So, yes, those are some of the things for me. Golf, I'm all over the place. I've watched golf my whole life, so I like the Arnold Palmers and the Jack Nicklauses, but I also like the ones in the 80s, and then also you get Mickelson and Tiger Woods and all those guys are the newer guys. Yep. So I mean, golf's all over the place. I don't have a favorite one for golf. But yeah, so for me, 1980s is sweet for me, but then like early 70s for hockey.
For baseball, for me, it would be 78. That was the year that it really just kind of all made sense, and it just happened that there were 9 teams trying to contend for 4 playoff spots. That just happened to be the year that when I did the replay was the pandemic, and we just slowed down to doing it every day. And so if there was one season I'd want to do, if I was to take on the 2,400-game project, that would be the season. So, but I think we did like 130, 140 games. Football, 80s. I mean, there's, my Bengals won the Super Bowl in 81 and 88. And the Giants made the Super Bowl in 86. And I'll put my Phil Simms voodoo doll away. They won that Super Bowl against the Bills. So there really isn't. I mean, I suppose for me, the baseball's the only really one that I have an attachment to a season. I mean, I've done 75, 76 because Brian Trottier has become a favorite of mine. And so I intend to play more of that. And the 85, 86 Celtics, just because the whole thought of only losing one game an entire season, including playoffs at home. And that was peak Bird and McHale. But for baseball, it's 78. Golf, I mean, careers go on for a long time.
Right.
And I don't think I've done a season replay. I'm going to do one just because I need a winter project to show off on the channel. I'm not sure what season that's going to be yet. But yeah, I think 78 baseball, and then anything after that is going to be regions. I don't think I'll play the Islanders in order doing that. I think it's time, after I've done 75, 76 will be twice. It's time to do a cup run to see that. I
think I might add in for football 1990. I don't know.
It was a great year.
I don't know why, but 1990 sticks out as another year that I like. Now I know the Patriots were 1-55. They were terrible, but just generally that year seemed to be a fun year. And the other thing is too is I think when we got to as much as I like the 70s and 80s football, 90s football started to get that West Coast offense, and you had better television coverage in 1990 as well.
90 was the emergence of the Bills. It was their first of their 4. The 49ers were going for the three-peat and lost at home to the Giants in the conference championship game. So that's a good season to want to do. It's one of the ones I own for Strat, as a matter of fact.
I just remember 1990 is another one that sticks out as a lot of fun for me, too.
All right, Jim asks,
all right,
how can the industry attract younger users?
Oh, boy, Jim, that's a good question. We've kicked that around here on the channel a few times, Jim. I think we have. Ron brings up the point that at some point, some of these younger people are going to want to play their heroes.
Fantasy.
Yeah, and so the heroes aren't playing anymore. And that's kind of what happened to me, a while ago, was that, I pick up Madden or NHL 22, and I can only play the current season. My favorite people have long retired, so how do I play my favorite people? And so Ron seems to think that at some point, these younger people, they're, 10 years from now, their favorite players are going to be long gone from video games, and so how can we play these people?
Right.
And that's a good point there too. I think they're going to have to find some way. Again, the fantasy football is huge right now. I don't play it. It's not my thing. I think we'll do a pick 'em here this fall. We should set that up where we can just pick the winners of games. That's what I enjoy instead of trying to set up fantasy lineup.
Much more.
I just see people that they take days off from work to pick their fantasy team. That's how serious they are about that.
Oh goodness, there's like going to be 24-hour draft fantasy coverage on some of these things on YouTube and ESPN Plus. And
I do think if you want to bring in the younger people, these companies here are going to have to modify how they do business and maybe how they market the games, because you if you're going after a younger audience, even myself when I'm at the rink and I'm joking around with the younger people and I'll say a joke from All in the Family or something like that or Three's Company, they look at me like, what? Who's Suzanne Summers? So I mean, I can't, I have to realize that, I'm talking to younger guys, have no idea where I'm coming from. So if I want to relate to them, I gotta kind of, be at their level, wherever that level is. And so I think the companies here, they got to, adapt to bring in the new business and the younger people. It's just a different way of doing things.
You have to start to make the entry level of these games affordable.
I think that's another thing too. Yeah, you can't expect somebody new to come in and drop $100 to $200 just to get into your game.
Right, because these games, APA and Strat and a few others, marketed themselves in the magazines that you and I bought as kids. Now, you weren't buying the baseball one, but I'm sure there were ads for Strat and APA and the hockey yearbooks.
I bet there are. Yeah.
There certainly were a whole bunch of stuff in the Strat and APA and the Sporting News and the Street and Smith baseball and stuff like that. And so just like with baseball cards, sports cards, you have to give something that kids can afford to get into. And again, you can't expect an 18-year-old who might have an interest in this to spend $90 to $100 just to get his foot in the door.
Yeah.
That's one. I think what Strat does really well is their Baseball 365, which is a daily baseball game, and so you draft your players. The computer runs the sim, and you kind of get into that. And I think the other thing that people will become nostalgic for is not necessarily always their heroes, but if you had the fantasy basketball team. If I won a league one year, I never watched basketball, but I did a Yahoo basketball draft, and I drafted Shaq in his prime. And because Shaq did everything but shoot free throws, all I had to do was find someone that shot 85% from the free throw line, and I won.
Right.
Because Shaq could rebound and Shaq could score. That's going to be, I think, the thing is, oh, wow, I forgot that I had Brady and Gronkowski on my team and the kicker and whatever. And so those are the ways that you can get people to get in there, because they're not necessarily going to want to remember always, let's say, the 2010 New England Patriots, but they're going to want to remember the 2010 Bearded Clams.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever their fantasy team is. And I think if you play into that, that's how you do it.
I think another thing that might be key, and I don't know how you would do this, is when you talk about these games, they're really hard to explain to people.
Yes.
But if you sat somebody down, and I've done this a couple of times, and I played a game with somebody, or I showed them how to play the game, they're pretty amazed at what they're actually doing and how much fun it actually is. And it's just like, holy cow, this is really fun. Who would ever thought that rolling dice on a table for a sports game would be fun? But it is. And so I don't know how, aside from knocking on doors and sitting down with kids and pulling out a game of Strat or App or something like that and getting them to play, I don't know how you do it. But, we heard the stories of someone that said, their kids come over the house and were playing Madden and something happened and it screwed up. So he pulled out, I don't know if it was Strat or App or football. It might even been second season. I think he pulled out a football game and all the kids were playing that. And they come back the next weekend and they're like, the heck with the video games. We want to play this tabletop game. And so it's one of these things that just, if you give it a try and you give it a fair shake, it is surprisingly fun how you get someone to sit down and do that, though, in 2022 when everything is so fast and automatic and computerized. How you get somebody?
You put a game on a phone.
That might be a way around it too. Yeah,
build an app on a phone. Whoever's clever enough to put their card and dice mousetrap on a phone.
That's a good idea too. Yeah, because that's where everyone is now. They're on their tablets, they're on their phones,
because it is something that you can do. So we're now used to. When I started this out on this odyssey of gaming 30 some odd years ago, it was unheard of to do solo projects like this, or at least you're awkward to do it at 17, 18, 19 years old. Now everyone is. You can be in a room full of people, and no one's talking to each other, at least verbally, and everyone's got their phone out.
Yeah, I think you need to find the sports geeks, because I was a little bit of a geeky when I was in junior high. We played Dungeons and Dragons and a few things like that, and that stuff still intrigues me, like the Eldritch horrors that ID plays, and Chris is now playing some of those war games and adventure games as well, rather than the sports games. So there are a whole bunch of geeky people playing the tabletop Star Wars games and the war games. So what you need to do is you need to find the geeky sports fans and have them stop playing these games, and they would immensely enjoy it, I think.
I think so. We're going to get a couple more questions. We had so much of a response, we're going to have to do a second part to this.
Well, let's keep going. We've been long-winded on this, but let's keep going. Let's see if we can bang them all out.
There's quite a few left, so let me know when you get tired.
Sure.
And I'm sure we'll get some questions from other people as a follow-up. So Mike asks, what was the worst ending of a replay series or game that you ever had? Do you remember it like it was yesterday? I'll answer this first. Dying Seconds, 1978, late season replay, Mile High Stadium. It's the Kansas City Chiefs with Charles Emerson Winchester III as the quarterback against the Denver Broncos, and the game is tied. And Kansas City's quarterback, well, the cat that's on my lap was a better quarterback than what Kansas City had. They ran a wishbone that year, as a matter. The NFL team actually ran a wishbone. And so I'm looking, and it's 1:30 in the afternoon. The game is going to go into overtime, and I know Denver's going to win just because Kansas City can't move the ball. And so, but Kansas City could run it. And so I'm looking, and on the screen in Action PC Football, it tells you the chances of a first down and a touchdown, okay? And so I know we're getting into the Jim Carrey, so you say there's a chance. You say I've got a chance, whoever he was trying to date in that movie. And so a pitch out to the left or whatever running back that was had a 0.6% chance of going for a score. Now, I don't have two plays. And their quarterback can't throw the ball more than 20 yards anyway. So if I throw it, if it's even completed, it's not going for a score. My only chance to win is on some sort of miracle wrapped in a And so I give it to the running back, and then the final score flashes on the screen because there is no replay of anything in Action PC at the end of the game. And instead of running it 98 yards for the winning score and me being praised for the awesome job I did as the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Tom Jackson tackled him in the end zone, and Denver wins the game on a walk-off safety.
Yeah, I remember
and that really is the most. And it's funny. It was funny then, but that really is the most infamous moment. It's like I've lost a game on a walk-off safety.
Yeah, you and Al are the walk-off safety club.
Yeah, Al and I. It's a small club.
That's legendary. Yep.
Yeah, it is. So, Mike, that would be what I would say. What about you?
I've had a couple recently in Hockey Bones. I had that game. I want to say it was against Quebec Nordiques, where Quebec had 4 scoring chances and scored on 2 of them, and the Bruins went early to midway in the third before they had a chance to score a goal. It just was bad dice rolling on my part, and It was so frustrating that nothing was in range. I think I had 20 20 shot attempts, none were in range in this game. Okay, and it was so frustrating that I'm down 2-0, and then before I had even a chance to get a goal, it was midway through the third, and I ended up tying the game somehow against Quebec. I'm playing as the Bruins, and on the last roll of the game, it was either the third or the fourth line out there for Quebec, they got a scoring chance, and this third or fourth line winger, somebody I've never heard of. I think I rolled an 11 or 12, and that was a scoring chance, and he scored the game winner with basically no time left on the clock. And it was such a one-sided rolling game that I was really upset about, because it was just like, okay, scoring chance for Boston, not in range. Scoring chance for Boston, not in range. Over and over, and then scoring chance for Quebec, in range and a goal. What are the chances? What are the chances that I roll 100 times and nothing for Boston? I roll 3 times, and all 3 times the goals for Quebec. It was such a frustrating game that I had to take a break, and it's not the game's fault. I just was rolling.
It will frustrate you.
It was really frustrating. Then there was a couple times too in shootout hockey when I did my 73-74 Seals season replay. It's California Golden Seals. Knowing they're going to lose a lot of games, but there was a lot of games that they were winning. Like midway through the season, they're winning by a goal or two, and they couldn't hold the lead. It was just like you roll up, scoring chance for the other team, goal. Scoring chance for the other team, goal. Scoring chance for the other team, goal. Son of a bitch. Blew a 2-goal lead in the third period, and they lost again. And the losing from that season took its toll on me. Knowing I was playing a bad team, and that was the goal, but they were winning so many games that they choked away, and that was frustrating. And I think there was another time, I think it was actually during the 78 replay that you, me, and Al did, that it was Montreal, New York. I think it was in the semifinals, and the Rangers were upsetting the Canadiens. And even in Game 7 in Montreal, the Rangers were up by, I think they were up by 3 goals. Excuse me, maybe 4 goals. And Montreal stormed back, and they got like 7 scoring chances in a row and scored on 6 of them to win the game in Game 7. And it was so frustrating because I'm pulling for the Rangers to pull the upset, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't hold this huge lead, and I'm just rolling the dice. It's like, oh, good, another scoring chance for Montreal. Can we just get to nope, can't even get to overtime because Montreal's got another scoring chance, and then they score again. So that was another frustrating one. The Seals and the Canadiens when I played there in shootout. And I guess for baseball, it was my very first Spiders attempt. It was an action PC baseball, which I didn't know much about the Spiders at this time.
Right.
And they were getting beat up, and they were getting. And I thought there was a glitch in the game because they were stealing base after. They were stealing every single base in the game on me, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I played one game, and I had the lead, and the other team came back to tie it, and the guy threw a wild pitch in the bottom of the ninth, and the winning run scored on a wild pitch. And I was like, and that's when I quit the replay, because I was like, okay, I'm just so frustrated with this. Now, at the time, I didn't know how bad the Spiders were. Okay, now that we've had,
you're now the guru of the Spiders.
Yeah, now I'm the guru of the Spiders. We had Mr. Hetrick on to talk about his book and the Spiders. Now I can sit back and laugh at it all. But at the time, It was frustrating as heck. And that wild pitch for the game winner just kind of cemented that replay when I just kind of gave up on it. I was like, okay, this is just not fun anymore. And I don't know what I was expecting, but again, I was kind of new to the Spiders at that point. So I've had 3 or 4 very, very frustrating.
So that dovetails into Jimmy's question.
All right, what do you got, Jimmy?
Which is when do you know to quit a replay?
Oh boy, we've talked about abandoning the project and whatever.
Right.
Well, I guess it might come in stages for me. The first thing is to walk away and go play something else so you don't get all upset. I guess that would be the first, because when I did the 86 Clemens replay in Strat, I was getting frustrated as all heck with that. But at the same time, I kind of went with it, knowing that I was only going to play, what was I playing, 20 or 30 games for Clemens. And I gutted it out and I finished it, even though I didn't have a lot of fun with it. But that was frustrating as heck. So I guess, there was another, like I said, that Bruins one there with the Quebec game. I had to step away from that for a week or so before I went back to that replay. Now, that wasn't enough to make me quit. 3 or 4 of those games, maybe
would do it.
Yeah, again, there's a frustration factor. So you walk away and you let the temperature settle down a little bit. But if you go back and it happens again, like that's happened with Action PC Golf. I like Action PC Golf. Contrary, whatever that word is. Yeah, contrary to what you might think. I do like Action PC Golf. That game frustrates the heck out of me, though. It gets to a point where at a critical point, I get a bad mishit, and it screws up the entire round. And when that happens, it's just like all the emotional waves come back and they hit me. And it's just like, here we go again. This is
why I don't do this.
This is why this game frustrates the crap out of me. And I like it to a certain point, but when that happens, it wrecks the game for me. It just does. And because it's happened so many times that each time it happens, I feel like Don Cherry. You see the picture of Don Cherry on the bench, and he's like putting his hands up because the Bruins got a penalty in Montreal. I was like, here we go, a penalty in Montreal late in the game. What a surprise. So that's kind of how I feel about the golf game there. And it's just like, holy cow, here we go again. And so the frustration kicks in, and I just want to get through the round and be done with it at that point. So I guess it really all depends on the frustration factor. Where are you in the replay? Are you at the end of it? Are you at the beginning of it? I mean, if I'm at the beginning of the replay and this happens enough, then
it's so much easier to stop at the beginning.
Then it's like, okay, well, let's just kill this project because this is not going well. I'm not enjoying this. There's something about this that this is not right. I have so many other projects that I am enjoying and that are fun. So if it's too frustrating for me, I'm not going to force it because I have too many other games that I'm having fun with.
I think for me, it comes down to how much I'm enjoying it. If the game glitches, as it has with a couple of my projects, then it just it becomes a drudgery. And I gotta say, I'm not the world's biggest football fan, so football projects take a lot for me to finish because I just stop enjoying them. I know that my viewers enjoy them, but that's one of those sports that you kind of do a binge thing with. Oh, I'm into this, I'll do that. It doesn't make for necessarily that, but whether the game works well or not, whether I'm having any fun, you got a team that is supposed to be great guns and all that, and they're coming out and stinking up the joint. I think we're done. Or if a game takes longer for me to play, if I got to come back and do a third or fourth sitting to finish one game, for me, no, we're not. I'll finish the game I'm playing usually, but that's not going to be a project. If it's going to take 3 or 4 hours just to get through, it's one thing when you're learning a game, but if it's going to take 3 or 4 hours to play it out, and you know that you're only going to have multiple different sittings, it's got to be pretty enthralling for me to finish.
I think the other thing too, you brought up a point about the game frustrating you itself.
Yes.
I was watching ID play a game. I won't say what game it was, but I was watching him play a game, and this was like a year or two ago. He played this game, and I was just going back, kind of refreshing myself.
Did he actually play the game, or just turn into an?
Oh no, he was playing the game, and right off the bat, one of the first things that happened was something really weird, and it's like, oh boy. He goes, hang on while I try to figure out what happened.
Right.
And so right off the bat, and I won't say what sport or what game it was, but you could see he just a big sigh. He's just like, I just was playing this game a few minutes ago. Like I'll do that too. I'll play a game, a few plays or a few face-offs or a few at-bats or whatever it is to get up to speed. Okay, I'm in the groove now. Now I'll start my stream. And something really crazy happened, and he's just like, I can't believe this. This is how we're going to start. And then so if a game does that right off the start, it does something really weird, or it's something rare, or something that you're not sure. It's just something out of the ordinary that's just not a normal thing.
You had that happen in a project years ago, and it soured you, I think, for years on the entire Sports Sims, which is the front page sports football. 97 or 98?
Yeah.
And you're going to do the Steve Young replay, and he gets a season-ending injury in the first quarter.
Yeah, first quarter of the first game. It's like, I ain't playing this to play the backup. Yep. So
Right.
so it's like I stopped that. It's like I don't know if I ever went back to the game. So, so if the game starts off on a sour note, that maybe it's not the game, but it's just the dice rolls. Again,
Right.
it's Planko, and you start getting some bad results right off the bat, and things don't start. And not that you have to win every game and score every goal or get every touchdown or hit every home run on every at bat, but just if it starts off and it's just like all clunky and it's like, man, I got to go back into the rules again. I've been playing 10 minutes. I pulled out the rule book 5 times. Man, just I think I'm going to go play something else, something that I don't have to work as hard on.
All right. We're going to have to do this in 2 parts because I got 9 questions left. We've already been doing this for an hour. So,
okay.
So the last one I'll ask in this one, and we want if you guys have got questions, put them in YouTube and the Facebook group, and we'll definitely do a second part to this. This is from Ben.
Okay, Ben.
What is the biggest shock result you've had in your replays? Either a single matchup or a season result?
Well, that's a good question.
All the good questions.
I think probably the biggest shock for me was that Strat 86 Clemens replay where the Red Sox finished. I think they were dead last, either dead last or second to last.
Right.
That kind of shocked me. I was really like, wow. Yeah. Again, I'm just a casual baseball guy, but I was expecting much more out of Clemens and much more out of the Red. And the thing it wasn't only that I was losing the games playing Clemens, but the games that I simmed that Clemens didn't pitch, they were losing as well. So when I looked at, I finished 22 games out of first place, and that's a team that went to the World Series. So that was pretty shocking. I don't even want to say I was mad at it because that was more just me seeing what my results would be, and so I found out what my results were. But that was a very shocking set of results for me. Was that one right there?
2, both 1978, different sports. As I mentioned earlier, the 78 Rangers. I'm not surprised that they won the division. They were within 5 games. Kansas City, California, and Texas were all very qualified to win the AOS that year. But I was stunned that they beat Ron Guidry and the Yankees in Game 5. That was not a World Series team. In the annals of World Series history, that would have been one of the worst World Series teams. They really had no pitching, and their hitting was kind of hit or miss. But once you get into the playoffs of any sort, all bets are off. And, it really was a Davey versus Goliath type deal to have that happen. And the Dodgers just swept Texas lost in 5. They did take a World Series game and, a Lifetime Achievement Award for them. But, I could see Texas making the playoffs, but I fully expected the Yankees to sweep that series, even with the first 2 in Dallas. And in football, I go back to that 78 Kansas City Chiefs team because they could not throw. They absolutely could not throw. It was Len Dawson's backup was their starter, and then he got hurt. So Dawson was retired at that point. So it really was, God knows who the heck the quarterback was. And they were a 4-12 team in real life. But Al looked it up when I was doing it, and there was 5 or 6 games. They lost by 3 points or less.
Right.
And so Kansas City was a wild card team for me. We turned that 4-win team into a 10-win team. And that just, came way off the board.
Right.
To do so. And so I think that might be my most shocking result. I took the 06 Mets to the World Series. Or maybe, it took me 06 Mets to the World Series, and the Red Sox always traditionally underperform in my replays. But having a 4-win team be a legitimate playoff team, I believe they got waxed in the wild card round. But that was the biggest shock, and just kind of goes to show just how fickle a football replay can be. So
I think for me, as far as there's 2 in hockey, I'll bring up real quick, then we'll wrap up. One was when I played the Kansas City Scouts against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's opening day for the Scouts in '74, their first ever game, and I played it in Strat on the PC, and the Scouts actually led through most of that game. And I was shocked that the Scouts actually kept up with, because it was in Toronto. And the Toronto ended up tying it and then winning it with like a minute left on a shorthanded goal. They won it 4-3 or 5, whatever it was. But I was kind of shocked that Kansas City was even in that game, and they were on a power play late with a chance to win it, and Toronto scored short-handed to steal it from them. So that was pretty shocking that the Scouts hung on there. And the other one is in the Action PC. Remember when I took Tretiak, Kalmanoff, and Mikhailov?
They were horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
So somebody did a homebrew of the 72 Summit Series. So I took 2 forwards and a goalie from the Russian team and put them on the 74 Bruins. And it got to halfway through the season, and I ended up just basically benching them. Tretiak was not good. The 2 guys were fair at best. And I thought I would take that team and I would stomp through 74 by adding 2 studs and a stud goalie. And
you had the right idea with that. You were very new to gaming, but you had the right idea.
It was just fun. It was just drop them on the team and just basically, just seeing what would happen. And it was that team is not doing well. I mean, I still think they're in first place or second place in their division, but I basically have retired the Russians. They did not work out like I thought. I thought they'd tear up that league, and I thought
they would too.
So I was kind of shocked at that how they didn't work out like I thought.
The other one that you had, Game 8 in Moscow.
Oh yeah,
and was it a 1-goal game in favor of the Russians?
Something like that, yeah.
And the Soviets ripped off 6 in the third period.
Oh, they crushed Canada, yeah.
You couldn't stream it, and I was streaming something else. It was a Saturday night, and you kept updating me, and I kept looking over and absolutely stunned.
Yeah. Absolutely
stunned that Canada pretty much talk about, they're going home. They're going home.
They wanted to get out of Moscow. They really did. That's always been such a very fun, one of my more memorable replays with that one there.
So we will get to the rest of your questions in part 2 because they're all good. I think I got 9 left, and plus whatever you want to ask us in YouTube. So, what would you like to know from us? And so some of them we've done, and there's some great questions to go. But looking at the clock here, we've been at this over an hour, and so we don't want to go any further than that. So thank you so much for doing that. And if you want to add your question to the Facebook group, we will do part 2 of this at episode 148. At a theater near you.
Yeah, that was great. That was some great questions there, and the thing is, very thoughtful questions, and there's questions that require a lot of time to answer. So there was some good ones there.
I'm delighted by it. So before I tell you how to get a hold of us, who are our 3 stars for the week?
Oh yeah, let's do the 3 stars of the week. Okay, so it's episode 147. So our 3 stars of the week. Our number 3 star is Patch, our buddy Patch.
Woohoo!
He's been actually taking a short break from YouTube, and he did a video the other day, and he said he's been kind of hot where he is. So he hasn't done a lot of videos. So I think a few of us.
He's in Southeast Asia. That gets kind of toasty.
Yeah, so he's been taking some time off too. Number 2 star is K-Fan.
Woohoo!
Thank you, K-Fan, so much for supporting the show. And the number 1 star here on episode 147 is Joel Anderson.
Yay!
Joel, thank you so much for being a Patreon here and supporting the show. And let me cue up the music. I'll bring us out, Ron. We can do that. Here we go.
All right. So I go, how you get a hold of us first?
Yeah, no, I'll do it there. So how you get a hold of us here?
Okay.
Digital to Dice is our website, digitaldice.com. 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. That's how you get a hold of us on the text line. Digitaldice at yahoo.com is the email, and over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. And again, if you'd like to help the show on Patreon for either $2 or $5 a month, just to help us pay the bills, it's patreon.com/digitaltodice. Thank you so much for everybody that's helping us keep the show going.
Absolutely.
And so we'll have part 2 coming up of our question and answers with the community, and we might even have an interview coming up shortly as well. So all kinds. Now that it's cooled down a little bit here, now that it's at 70 degrees instead of 95, I got a little bit more energy now, and probably you do too. So we got some shows to make up, and we got some Patreons to make up. So
we'll be doing those soon.
Yeah, we'll be doing that now that things are a lot cooler. So anyway, so I'm Dave.
I'm Ron.
I'll talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.